Public Safety, Criminal Justice Committee together in order here.
Morning.
First up is Public Defender.
Good morning.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not first?
We need to accept minutes.
Okay.
Motion made by Supervisor Sokol, seconded by Bramer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have two issues. One is a resolution request to obtain contracts with stenographers. Stenographers are the people who are in court who take down what we say. I don't have one specific stenographer I use because depending who is assigned to that trial or that proceeding, sometimes I need the transcript of what occurred that day for the next day for cross-examination or for something else that's going on. So that's why I'm asking for contracts in general with various providers because I don't know who's going to be assigned to that case. So that's my resolution. I have money in my budget to pay for it, but I need the permission to have the contracts.
Motion moved by Supervisor Sokol, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Discussion. Supervisor Bramer.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Are these people for Doring Court? Isn't the court responsible for those people?
No, the court is required to have a stenographer during a trial, but let's say during the trial, I want the witness finished on day 1, day 2 is starting, and I want to do cross. I want to get specifics about what they said on day 1. They don't provide me with anything. I have to pay for it.
Okay.
So there is a stenographer, and what the stenographer also does is, at sentencing, they're required to provide the sentencing transcripts if they're going to state prison, and if there's a trial, if there's an appeal, the stenographer is paid through the state for that appeal, if it's a free attorney, and then the attorney gets a copy of that transcript for free, but that doesn't apply to me and my department. So this is during the proceeding. That's the reason why.
And you do this every year, so you have great histories. You know what you're looking for.
Yes. Last year we did not use our full allotted amount of money for it. So we try not to order them unless we absolutely need to. If there's a way to search around to get, if it's a proceeding such as in family court or a city court that is recorded that doesn't have a stenographer there, and we want a copy of the tape for various reasons, maybe a hearing that's going on or a trial that's coming up, something like that, then we can call around and get rates and try to get the cheapest rate. And we've done that before, but that's why I can't tell you the fact that that stenographer we used before is going to be available this year. So I don't want to contract only with one person because they may not be able to get it in the time frame that we need or may not be doing it anymore. And that's why it said for various, so that I can call around and get the best rate. But if it's a county court trial, it's the stenographer who's in the courtroom that day.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Call the question then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The second issue that is on the calendar is the resolution request for an after-hours arraignment proposal, and with the permission of the committee and the supervisor, Gary Hobbs, the judge from City Court, is here also, and I know that we've been working on this for a long time on this proposal. I understand we are looking for a resolution from the board to present with our proposal that goes to Office of Court Administration, and so that's why this was on. And I didn't know where we were in terms of what people wanted to discuss or not discuss, but Judge Hobbs is here, and he's very familiar with it also, and he is the one who's submitting the proposal on behalf of the county to the Office of Court Administration.
Okay. Thank you. And since we just received basically the copy of this, it would be good to have a rundown.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, my name is Gary Hobbs. I'm Glens Falls City Court Judge. I'm also the supervising judge for the town village justices in Warren County, Washington County, Essex, Hamilton County. This whole issue arose out of a 2010 Court of Appeals decision, Burrell Herring versus the State of New York. In that decision, the Court of Appeals, that was a lawsuit with 5 different counties, one of which is our sister county, Washington County, where defendants were being arraigned without counsel present were subject to being incarcerated, put in jail pending bail, and were held for a period of time before they got counsel. The Court of Appeals in 2010 reaffirmed the existing law, which was that violates the defendant's constitutional rights. Defendant has the constitutional right to have counsel present at the initial arraignment if there's any consideration of terms and conditions of release, such as bail. In 2015, Judge Marks asked for some ideas on legislation to try to correct some issues that we have in the law. This was a proposal that I had made, was to change the legislation on this to see if we could have centralized arraignments. Judge Marks' office got the legislation passed in 2016 that would allow for judges in a centralized setting to do arraignments throughout the county, so that a judge in Thurman could handle cases from Glens Falls or from Queensbury. Right now, the Thurman judge can only handle cases in its own jurisdiction for misdemeanors or in an adjoining jurisdiction. What that problem creates is that the DA's office and the public defender's office then has to go to various courts at various times of the day and night to do arraignments, to be available for those arraignments, often at different courts at the same time, which is impossible to do. It places a huge stress financially on the county to have enough staff to make sure that individuals are represented. I say that that it places the stress on the county because under County Law 722, the county is responsible for the public defender's office obligation. It's responsible for the 18B, what we call 18B, the assigned counsel requirements. It was what you guys hate to hear, which is the unfunded mandate that you're required to provide counsel for indigent defendants. So the concept was, let's try to join together some services, consolidate some services, hopefully save some money. The concept here was that we were going to do it at a location within the county here, within the county center. We have the old jail that there has been some work on. I don't know if everybody's seen it, but there's been some work to renovate it into a courtroom facility. It's close to the holding cells that Sheriff York has at his facility, so it's easy to get individuals to and from that courtroom without a lot of transportation costs of bringing defendants to various other courts. It saves on the DA's office and the public defender's office having to go to various different courts. So we got this plan together. It's a similar plan to what occurred in Washington County. I prepared that plan in Washington County, and that started in October of last year. So they now have a centralized arraignment part, which takes place at their visiting area of their security offices at their jail. There's a courtroom set up there. There is an area for defendants to meet with their attorneys. They have set times for doing the arraignments. They start at 8 a.m. and they start back up at 8 p.m. every day. The sheriff brings the defendants in. They can meet with their clients right then and there, and then they are discharged, either held or not held, but counsel can always be there from both sides because of that. From what I'm hearing, the plan is working very well. If anybody wants to talk to Sheriff Murphy about how well it works, or the DA's office or the Public Defender's office, it's working incredibly well. Defendants are being arraigned, always with counsel present. No one's constitutional rights are violated, and they are promptly arraigned and either held or released. There are some differences in this plan, although it does mirror greatly the plan in Washington County. The differences are somewhat small. Some are in the technology that's going to be involved, the computerized software. That's because the state has developed now some computerized software that will allow the courts to talk directly to each other, and that would be put in place in this program. The second one is transportation. Under this plan, the arresting agencies are required to transport from the jail to the arraignment center here in the county building at the old jail. So that's a slight difference in connection with the overall plans. However, the plans are similar otherwise. That plan was approved in Washington County. I would anticipate that this plan would be approved. The other benefit to the county is that County Law 722E, which was amended as part of the budget process from 2016, I believe, indicates that the cost to the county for implementation of an approved centralized arraignment plan will be reimbursed by the state. So you, as the county, can make application to the state for reimbursement of all of your expenses involved in connection with the centralized arraignment court. That doesn't mean that you're going to get everything reimbursed for Public Defender's Office or for the DAs. It's talking about the additional costs that are over and above for having to operate this. It does have some costs involved, such as security. You guys went through and created a budget when Ron was involved in, Ron Montesi was involved in this. The budget was created for that. I think it's a very reasonable budget for that, and the county would be seeking reimbursement for the line items on the budget for that. In addition, it does create pay that is for the judges who have to come to this centralized arraignment court. The individual localities do not have to pay for the judges' compensation or either mileage or for their time in having to do this. OCA, the state of New York, is picking that up, and in Washington County, they are vouchering that directly through the state, so that that's being handled directly through the state's budget on that. The idea here is simply an idea that you guys have talked about for a long time, which is consolidation of services, which often is very helpful in getting efficiency increased while decreasing costs and expense at the same time. So that's the idea that we're trying to float here. And the goal is to make sure that judges aren't going to be violating any defendant's constitutional rights by making performing an arraignment without having counsel present. And the goal is to not overwork our public defender's office, our DA's office, and put the strain on them. What we had found was the public defender's office has been trying since I think October, November 2015 to comply with the Ralph Herring requirements. They have had a huge turnover of staff. I can't say that's all to do with the fact that people are having to go out at a virtual various times of the day, but I'm sure that doesn't help the turnover rates in the public defender's office. If you have any questions about the particular plan, how it works, a judge will come here at 7 a.m. and again at 5:30 p.m. They will go to that center. The defendants will be brought in. There's a location within there for defendants to meet privately with counsel. The defendants will then be brought before the judge. The judge will perform the arraignment with counsel and the DA present. The defendant would then be either released or held. In addition, during the day period, if there are needed arraignments, my court is open all day long. Defendants, police agencies are able to bring defendants to my court for arraignment, provided that the public defender's office can be available and the DA's office can be available. DA's office can appear by phone. Unfortunately, the public defender's office cannot. There was, at one point in time, a pilot legislation to allow video arraignments. That required, however, consent of the defendant. Defendants never consented, so the pilot didn't work well. So that's how we've gotten to this point in time.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you for explaining that thoroughly. And in front of us today is a request to...
A resolution to request that the Board of Supervisors approve the after-hour arraignments part.
Okay. Supervisor Bramer?
I have a question. I just want to back up for a second. Did you say arraignments could happen in the Glens Falls City Court?
Yes.
Did you say that?
Yeah. This is intended for the after hours, off hours arraignments. Number one, on weekends, holidays, that type of thing, they would not happen at the Glens Falls City Court. During the regular week, Monday through Friday, we are open all the time.
Okay.
Queensbury is not open Monday through Friday, even though they have clerks there. They don't have judges there. Lake George has clerks available. They do not have judges available. So they're not technically open during those periods of time for work to be done. But Glens Falls is, if we have arraignments during the day that need to be done, provided I have availability of counsel, I'm more than willing to do the arraignment. That way, you might not even have any arraignments in the evening hours.
Any other questions of the committee? Yes.
Thank you, Judge. Our counterparts in Saratoga County, is this something that they've already initiated, or they will be in the process of developing?
They're developing it. Part of what has to happen in the development of these is you need a place to hold the defendants. Sheriff York, a number of years ago, was wise enough to consider holding cells for this type of a purpose. So we've had the county, Sheriff York has had holding cells for more years than even this proposal has been considered. So you do need holding cells. Saratoga does not have holding cells yet to be able to do this. So they have to get legislation approved holding cells.
Yes,
Thank you,
Supervisor
Mr.
Diamond.
Chairman. I don't have any questions right now directly for Judge Hobbs, but I do have some comments that I would like to make prior to his after his presentation, if it's okay.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any other questions from the committee? Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question, in looking through the information, one of the goals was to be able to give arraignments in 12 hours.
Correct.
And we did. 9 to 12 on the off days, 9 to 12 in the morning, and then 5:30 to 9:30. If there's...
The hours are 7 to 9:30 and then 5:30 to 9:30 that the judges would be available to do the arraignments.
I just wondered if they're saying that there's nobody to be arraigned, then the judge doesn't come in.
Correct.
Somebody all of a sudden is arrested at 7 o'clock. Is the 12 hours a goal, or a hard and fast rule to seems like it would have to be a goal where you put flexibility.
If somebody's arrested at 7 o'clock, usually it takes some time to do processing of the defendant. They may be interviewed. They may not even have the charges ready until 10 o'clock at night. In that case, the arraignment would take place the next morning. Because there is a lot of police work that happens in between the time of just meeting with the defendant and the time of that the case is ready for an arraignment.
Thank you.
Supervisor Hogan?
Explain first how the pool of judges is going to work?
The magistrates, the judges, we've met a number of times, but we met most recently in December. They approved the plan. We're going to have a rotation schedule that will indicate what judge is on call for that week period of time. That judge is responsible to come in during those periods of time. There's also a conflict judge who has to be available, because, God forbid, the judge is walking out of his or her home, slips and falls, and can't make it because he or she's now on the way to the hospital. We need another judge to be available, so we have to have a judge who is also on call at the same time to go in. So there'll be a year-long schedule that will give a rotation for the judges. The judges, if they have a conflict in their time, can talk to the other judges and change it, provided that all the agencies know who's on call.
But all of the judges from every town will be participating?
There is, I should say, one judge who does almost no arraignments ever, and after-hours arraignments, I should say, ever. The thought process is that if a judge only does one after-hour arraignment per year, it seems kind of unfair to force him or her to have to come and do a week-long worth of arraignments. So we're not pushing this on the judges and saying that you have to do it. There is compensation for the judges, so some judges may want to do it even though they don't do many arraignments, and some judges may be willing to do more than their fair share. So I think that is what's going to balance it out.
Supervisor Simpson?
Will our court clerks from the towns also travel with them?
I would love to tell you yes.
That hasn't worked out yet?
There is some work on trying to get clerks available for this through OCA is working on that. None of the plans that have been approved, there have been 4 plans approved, including Washington County. None of the plans have a clerk involved in it. The judges are actually versed in doing the arraignment without having a clerk, because that's what we have done for years. We have done these after-hour arraignments without clerks. So it's not all that new to us to do these arraignments.
Okay. I'd like to call for a motion, and Supervisor Diamond, would you like to say something at this point?
Sure, I would. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I was going to introduce Mayor Hall here, but stepped out of the room for a moment, but Chief Lydon is here today. And I just want to go on for the record that I spoke briefly with Judge Hobbs about this contract arrangement prior to this meeting today. I have some concerns. Number one, with the cost associated to this contract, specifically with the transports from the city of Glens Falls to the local facility for the conceptual arraignment, and along with the security costs that are going to be incurred by the city. Right now, those costs aren't subject to the city's budget. Secondly, I'd like to mention that I believe, and I can't speak for the mayor, but as the former mayor of Glens Falls, I know there was discussions about this topic. Chief Lydon participated in that. However, I never seen, at my point in time as the mayor, any draft proposal in regards to this arrangement. I had an opportunity to review this online, but I think we owe a little bit of courtesy to the Glens Falls mayor, along with the common council, at least to look at the language in the arrangement and have them officially adopt through a resolution an endorsement if they feel this concept works for the city. if you look, and my concern still to this day in this contract, so I'm going to propose to table this to allow for the mayor to maybe have additional discussions with the sheriff in regards to costs associated to security and the arresting agencies. But I'm also looking in this contract where it references the consent order, the consent agreement, which calls for referrals, and it also references capital cost in regards to this proposal. Neither one of those are in this contract, so I would question, I'd like to know first and foremost what those costs are going to be to the county. Are those costs going to be distributed to the surrounding communities such as Glens Falls, Oak Landing, Queensbury? And I'd like to know what those reimbursements are before we approve this contract today and forward it on to the full board for review. I think it would be very important for this board to understand that we need, if we are going to move this concept forward, and I want to go on the record to say that I'm not opposed to the concept at all. I've been favorable for consolidation of initiatives, but I'm very, very concerned about how this contract language is going to impact the city of Glens Falls, and along with Bolton Landing. Bolton Landing also has their independent policing agency. Likewise, we in the city of Glens Falls do, and there's some additional costs associated to this that we're not prepared to do or budgeted to do in 2018. So I ask this board here to table that. Chief Leiden is here today to answer any questions that this board may have on how it's going to impact his department on a day-to-day basis, whether we're going to lose coverage, whether we're going to have to pay overtime expenses. So all of these questions need to be answered before we can really approve this this agreement today.
Are you proposing to table at this point?
I am, and I would open the floor up to
I think there's
Chief Leiden.
There's no discussion when there is a motion to table.
Okay.
So, but if we are to...
I'm getting used to
Yeah.
how
But
things are conducted.
if we are, I must say we are running a little late, but please.
I can be fairly brief. My name is Anthony Leiden. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of Glens Falls.
Well,
Second.
but there was no
You got a
second.
second.
Was there a second?
No, but you got a, I don't know.
Withdraw your motion, please, to time it, just at this moment,
Yeah.
so we can hear from...
I thought she put a motion on the floor to approve it.
No, I can't
She
put
can-
the
she has-
motion on.
Okay, so I'm withdrawing my motion,
Okay.
so we can permit
Thank
Chief
you.
Leiden to speak to the issue.
Okay.
Then I'll introduce it after.
Thank you, Chief.
My name is Anthony Leiden. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of Glens Falls, and I had a chance to read over the centralized arraignment plan proposal. I have some concerns as the chief of how it's going to affect the city and our operations when it comes to the centralized arraignment plan. Currently, we're probably one of the busier courts in the county. So with our centralized arraignment, or our arraignments after hours and weekends happening within our own facility, it's very easy for us operationally to take care of those. By moving the centralized arraignment location to 10 miles away from the city, we are now going to have the costs associated with transportation of all of our after hours and weekend arraignments to the county facility. So if we have multiple defendants in custody, that means I have to have more manpower, and I also have to have multiple vehicles. We have no vehicles currently that I can transport. Like the county has a transport van for the jail. We don't have that for the city. So if I have a male and a female in custody and they need to be arraigned, they cannot be transported in the same vehicle. So I have to tie up multiple officers to transport them 10 miles away, and they have to sit for however long until all of the arraignments for the whole entire county are taken care of for my officers to return to the city. So while they're outside of the city, I now have to backfill their positions so that I have coverage for the calls that are going to continue in the city of Glens Falls. Just to give you an idea, last year we housed 629 prisoners in our lockup alone. 128 of those were females. So when you're starting to talk about operations for us, this is going to have a major negative impact when it comes to our operations and finances. So if anybody has any questions when it comes to how the city operates and what we do, I'd be more than happy to answer any of those questions.
Sheriff?
We probably can figure this out. Tony, Judge, do you do after-hour arraignments now?
Yes.
So Chief, if you've got somebody you arrest at 9 o'clock at night, do you always arraign them, or do you sometimes use our lockup?
We do use the lockup.
Okay, so your people will bring them to our lockup, correct? And then
Under certain circumstances. Because we know that things have changed in the realm of the jail facility as well, when you're talking about opioids and everything else.
Right.
Those things have all changed the world that we live in because the jail isn't taking the responsibility of a prisoner that the city has that's under the influence. You're not taking on the liability to watch that prisoner, so now I have to keep that person.
So if you bring them up, I just want to understand it. So if you bring them up, they've got to pass the test for you to hold them in lockup for arraignment the next morning, correct? So if they flunk it, say, no, this guy's on opioids, and we got to bring him into the facility, so you have to take them back, and you have to arraign them before a judge, and the judge has to commit them. So that's happened a few times?
It's happened a lot. It's happened quite a few times.
So you have
I don't have a number.
So you have to wake the judge up?
We don't wake the judge up. We house them in our lockup until the next morning.
So you're
We don't typically call the judge in at 9, 10 o'clock at night.
So they spend the night
in our lockup.
In your lockup,
Yes.
if they flunk that?
Yes.
Well, I thought you weren't allowed to use your lockup.
We don't use our cells. We use the lockup, the hallway. We have a bench
Okay, so
area.
they just sit in your office
Yes.
until...
Yes.
Okay. I'm just thinking, there's got to be a way we can figure it out to help out, How many of those do you do, Chief? How many of those do you think you do at night, say overnight, that sit in your hallway all night long?
I would have to go back through and look at the numbers. Like I said, we housed 629 in our lockup in 2017.
If I may,
Yeah.
there's definitely some details that need to be worked out on that, and I think we can work that out at perhaps another time. Supervisor Bramer?
Yeah, I have been in support of this program. I think it's great for our county, but I do think there are some details that need to be worked out offline. So I'm gonna make the motion to table.
I just wanted to say one thing quickly with respect to Bolton. Bolton's already passed a resolution approving the plan, just to let you know that.
Okay. So, it was...
Is it time now for me to
Yeah.
second that motion?
Yes, please.
So,
I'd like to second that motion to table it for further discussions between the Sheriff's Department, the Chief of the Police of Glens Falls, and along with the new mayor, who hasn't had an opportunity to look at the contract, along with the Glens Falls Common Council, and if they can work through the details, I would ask them then if they want to
Okay.
pass a resolution.
all right.
Of support.
So, good. There's a second. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nothing. Motion carries. Thank you, Judge, and thank you for your preparation. I'm sure we'll be able to work out the details. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. The floor is any other? Thank you. Privilege of the floor? None? We will. We are on to Sheriff.
Already here, there's no question, I would have covered you. I'm going to take it if I get a chance. Were you here for the first one? Transcript?
All right, good. Thanks, Marcy.
Photographer, board.
Okay. Thank you, Under Sheriff. Please, again.
Good morning. We have a somewhat lengthy agenda to go through today.
Item A is requesting permission to send Patrol Officer James Banish in training. The title of the training is Sudden Traumatic Loss Seminar 3, located in South Carolina. Training is from February 3rd to February 8th. We had the money in the budget to cover this. For those who don't know, last summer, Officer Banish was appointed to a full-time position where he is our peer counseling, handles anything involving EAP with our members and members of other agencies as well. Thank you. Moved by Supervisor Sokol, seconded by Supervisor Bramer. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Item B is we're requesting a resolution to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the City of Glens Falls Police Department for the purpose of assigning members of the Glens Falls Police Department to the Warren County Sheriff's Office Emergency Response Team. This discussion of this started in the spring of last year following an incident in Glens Falls. Currently, or at that time, members of the emergency response team are full-time police officers that work for the Sheriff's Office only. We made an offer to Chief Lyden, Glens Falls Police Department, for the opportunity for them to assign members onto our team. He was in favor of it. I believe he went to the Mayor Diamond at the time, and I believe he went to his Board of Public Safety and got approval. We've been advised by the county attorney that we should have an agreement in place to protect the county, protect the city, and clearly spell everything out. There is no cost to the county. In fact, the county is going to utilize money that we receive through terrorism grants to assist in purchasing equipment for the Glens Falls Police Department. Supervisor Bramer? Is that you moving?
Motion moved.
Okay.
Yeah, moving.
Supervisor Driscoll? Second. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Thank you. Item C is a notice of intent to fill a vacant position in Communications Officer. Scott Combs, last day was yesterday. He's been with us for about 35 years, and he is retiring. He's off the payroll at the end of this month, but we're just looking to fill that position. Very good. Moved by Supervisor Garrity, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Item D is request a resolution to amend the county budget for the 2016 statewide interoperable communications grant in the amount of $523,375. And this is to carry the money from the 2017 fiscal year into 2018. Okay. Motion made by Supervisor Sokol. Seconded by Supervisor Garrity. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Item E is we're requesting a resolution for a new contract with Citadel Information Services Incorporated in the amount of $59,930. Give you a little backup on this, background information. Back in 2014, we hired a consultant to come in. It was called Televate, and they did an assessment of our emergency radio system. And they gave us a list of things that we could do short-term. They gave us a list of things that we could do long-term to make the system better, because we realized we were having serious issues with it that affects fire, police, and EMS. We undertook a bunch of projects. The county gave us $598,000, and we've been able to leverage grant money through the Dormitory Authority of New York State and through Department of Homeland Security Emergency Services. We are at a point now where we need to bring a consultant in again, look at the system, look at everything that's been done to it, and tell us what direction do we go now. Identify if and where we should put additional transmit sites. For members that are new to this committee or new to the board, things that we were told to do is upgrade some of our equipment. We installed 2 different transmitter sites, one in Warrensburg, one in the town of Lake Luzerne. We're currently in the process of putting a site over on 149, co-locating our equipment on a Verizon tower, and we're also in the process of going to construct a radio tower at the town hall in Stony Creek. We know these are bad areas for radio transmissions, so that's why we're putting those in. I attached a, basically it's a score sheet, and Mark Neal, who is our systems consultant looked through the proposals, I looked through the proposals, and basically we had to score them. You'll see Televate is listed on there, and that's the company that we utilized in the past. Unfortunately, when it came to the scoring system, they did not score as high as Citadel. We do realize there's about a $20,000 swing in prices between the lowest bidder and the highest bidder, and unfortunately Citadel is the highest. We do have money through the 2016 interoperable grant that'll cover the cost of this consultant services.
Thank you. Entertain a motion?
I'll put the motion forward.
Motion made by Supervisor Diamond, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Discussion. Yeah, Supervisor Weil.
Sean, I'm seeing some comments about the plan concerning moving to digital. Where does that stand?
I'm actually going to have Mark. He is more the techie.
Good morning. My name is Mark Neal. I'm the Systems Maintenance Coordinator for Warren County. One of my primary duties is to maintain the radio system for Warren County. And most of our radio communications right now are what's called analog, and the communications as a whole is moving towards digital. We currently are in a point where some municipalities and some radios that we carry around are capable of analog and digital. 15 years ago, all the radios that you carried around were just analog, and probably in another 10 years, all the radios that you can buy are going to be digital, and then you'll have to pay extra to get analog as an accessory or as an option. So the shift is pretty much nationwide towards digital communications, and we're not jumping at it, but we understand at the same time that there's going to be a point in time, just like you have your favorite old cell phone from 15 years ago. After a while, it just doesn't work on the So we know that the first step is going to be to replace some of our aging equipment on the mountaintops with equipment that does analog but is capable of doing digital. That way in 8 or 10 years, or maybe even a little bit shorter than that, we can begin to switch some of our channels from analog. That would probably start with law enforcement, because we pretty much have a fairly small set of law enforcement doing its portables and loyals, and we can do that switch first. But we just have to look at the reality that we are as a country migrating towards digital communications for fire, police, and EMS. Saratoga County has had a digital system for a number of years, and there's advantages and there's drawbacks to it, but it's just one of those things that is happening.
Okay, thank you. So I have another question for Sean, if you don't mind. So Sean, it sounds like we're going to be going digital. Is there a long-term capital plan, and is that really part of this consultant is going to be working on this?
That is part of it. That interoperable grant, that's $523,000. The bulk of that grant is going towards refreshing equipment at sites that are already existing, getting digital capable equipment up there. Until we have that equipment in place, you can't really move forward. You don't have the infrastructure, so to speak, to support it. So that's the biggest part of what we're doing right now.
Okay, so that's really the focus of the consultant, is to get us digital ready.
Right, and to identify other sites.
Yes.
We had previously looked at some sites, potentially a tower in Thurman, potentially co-locating equipment on Black Mountain. But I don't know if anybody's familiar with Black Mountain. There is no infrastructure up there. You have to use a helicopter to bring your equipment in. There is no power up there. So it would be a lot for us to bring. We'd have to bring a power source up there. Currently, the state police are using a windmill and solar.
Any other discussion?
Supervisor Sokol.
Mark, I see your analysis sheet here, and I can understand going, from Panther to Citadel, there's quite a difference, but when you're scoring here and you see like alert, and it's only a 100-point swing for $10,000, can you explain what the major difference is here for that?
When I scored them, I came up with a score, and then I did basically a phone interview with Citadel and eLert, and it took a while to set it up, but I did talk with these folks to try to get an idea of, right off the bat, which of these two that I felt the most comfortable with, and just the answers and the way that Citadel handled that conversation, as well as their presentation in general, was better than alerts. I did talk with both groups. I talked with number 1 and number 2. I understand that it's actually $10,000 to hire Citadel. So basically, we're asking them to guide us on probably a $600,000 to $1 million project by the time we're completely converted, pretty much completely done with this project. So
Mark, and how long is this contract? I don't.
the contract is, I put out a request for proposals. The request is two phases. One of the things that we learned as we went along was we had hired Televate. They did a good job, but we really had a starting point for Televate, and then the ending point was when they gave the presentation to the board. Once they did that, that was pretty much the end of the contract. And we weren't able to easily go back to Televate and say, now what if we do this site and we do it on a 50-foot tower instead of a 100-foot tower? We weren't able to do that because the contract was over. So this, when I put out this RFP, I said we're going to do 2 phases. First phase, which is these prices here, you guys come in, take a real good look at everything that we've got, including the radios, our sites, our towers, our HVAC, our generators, everything. Make sure we don't have any deficiencies, and give us some recommendations. That's phase 1. That's what this is. And then if you like it as a board, if we like it, then we can continue to do that. Basically, they say, here's what you need, and then we can hire them and say, okay, as more of as an ongoing thing. If we hire them, pay them this money, they come up with some recommendations, and we decide we can do this ourselves, all we're obligated to is for this amount. If we hire them and want to do an ongoing thing, they have phase 2 pricing on this sheet here. And that's what they would charge us the ongoing, almost like a whole project engineer per project.
Undersheriff, do you have money in your budget then for the second phase if we need to go that direction?
We would seek grant money at that point. And just so you know, we don't, because it's being paid for by grant money, we don't take it lightly. It's still tax dollars that were raised from citizens. So we try and scrutinize it as best we can. I would have preferred it was obviously the low bidder that scored the highest, but unfortunately that wasn't the case this time. And just so the committee understands, most counties and most municipalities that entertain and do these radio upgrade projects, they bring a consultant in, and the consultant oversees the entire project. We brought them in to give us information, to direct us, give us guidance. The sheriff's office, the county attorney's office, the DPW have basically been our own contractors, and we've put up 2 towers by doing this. Saved an incredible amount of money by doing that. If there's anybody here who dealt with the APA, we deal with them, and we're going to be dealing with them again in Stony Creek. I feel much more confident that we've gone through this once, but I'm sure we'll get through it a second time much easier now that we understand what's expected. There has been a learning curve to this, but we'll continue to move forward and we'll succeed.
Under Sheriff Lamry, you ran this through purchasing, the hiring process. Julie
Yes.
Butler is aware of that.
I had a lengthy conversation with Julie Butler, our purchasing agent, and she made it very clear, because we had not chosen the low bidder, what was required of us to set that aside and pick somebody other than the lowest bidder. And she has reviewed everything you have here in front of you, and she's okay with it.
Thank you. Sheriff and Supervisor Wild.
I think it's important, as what Sean just said previously, for the board and for the county to realize what we're doing differently than other counties. Again, they're paying to do everything. We're doing it smartly because we have the expertise of a person like Mark and Brian as well that are very familiar with radios. And DPW is involved, and we're putting these towers up ourselves. We're not paying. Let's say, what do we say, $1 million?
We said, to give you an idea, we put out an RFP to put a tower up in Warrensburg, up by the water tower. And Mark, refresh my memory, wasn't the lowest bid somewhere around
75 to 150,000.
And how much did we put it up for?
Put it up for between 18, I think.
Doing it ourselves.
So
That's a big savings. That's something that you guys should be aware of, that Sean and Mark and Brian are working on.
when we sit down with various vendors, and putting the cart in front of the horses, because we're going to talk about another site, but we got into the ground floor with Verizon for the new cell tower up over here in 149. Verizon changed the height of the tower to accommodate our equipment, because they didn't want, I think the cap is 200 feet where they got illuminated. They lowered the tower because they knew our equipment was going to be on the highest part of the tower. To put things, give you some sort of a background, we looked at doing a tower, co-locating equipment on a tower up in Thurman. The rent for that tower is $4,000 a month. That's what they wanted from the county. I said, absolutely, we're not paying $4,000 a month to build a tower before we spend that kind of money. The rent that we negotiated for Verizon is $500 a year. $500 a year. And it's because we got in at the ground floor when they started going through the planning board at the town of Queensburg.
Supervisor Wild, was there anything you wanted to add?
Just a quick one. Mark, the contract that we're going to put together for this company, does it have clear deliverables in terms of things that they have to deliver, or is this an advisory kind of contract where you sit down and give them a call on $165 an hour or whatever we chat about this issue or another issue?
As far as deliverables and products, there's going to be some reports that they deliver. We're not actually buying any equipment from them, but we do have a list of items as far as labor is involved that they're supposed to supply to us. They can't just do it on their own. They have to come do an actual inspection of our sites. They have to do another vendor or whatever. They have to make measurements and do tower inspections and those types of things.
Okay, those are all called out in the contract then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion on the table already? And it's seconded? Okay. Any further discussion? Then I'd like to call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Item number F is we're requesting a resolution to authorize the construction of a radio communications tower and support facilities in Stony Creek, and be right behind the town hall.
I'll move that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Sokol, seconded by Supervisor Simpson. Any discussion on this one? Supervisor Bramer.
What is it going to cost?
Shouldn't cost any more than $250,000. And where's the money coming from? Dormitory Authority of New York State. We've already been awarded $500,000. One of the last pieces we need, so we could actually ink the contract, so to speak, is to have a agreement in place with Verizon for the tower on 149, because it's paying for that site and it's paying for Stony Creek. And on the list of things, you can ratify the actions of the chairman, who's already signed the agreement.
Yes, Supervisor Loeb.
Chairman, just there's a discrepancy. Built one tower for $18,000, what's the difference? Obviously.
When he's I'm sorry, Supervisor, when he's talking about tower, he's talking about the physical tower, the structure. That's not the expensive part. It's all the equipment that gets housed in a radio building that supports that site. It's the generator, it's the power, it's everything that goes into it. Unfortunately, the radio equipment's expensive.
So, why don't we get it for $18,000, what would you recommend?
The $18,000 is just it's the piece of steel sticking out of the ground. Nothing more than that.
Everything else is okay.
No, we purchased the equipment and we utilized some equipment that we had.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no further discussion. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Hearing none? Motion carries.
Item G is requesting a resolution to ratify the chairman's signature on a tower site license application with KGI Wireless. KGI Wireless is the vendor that we were directed by Verizon to go through. Verizon actually owns the tower. And the resolution would also authorize the construction and the co-locating of our equipment at that tower site.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Sokol, seconded by Supervisor Bramer, and a question by Supervisor Bramer.
Thanks. Is the annual fee also paid by the dormitory authority? And that's only $500, so I just want to be clear.
No. What we're using the money from the dormitory authority for is one-time cost.
Of the $250,000?
Of the construction and the equipment and that stuff.
Operating.
Okay, it's not clear from, okay.
Okay, any other questions? Supervisor, okay. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Item H, we're requesting a resolution to amend the county budget to reflect money from insurance recovery. One of our corrections vans was hit. The insurance recovery that we received was $7,392.
Move H and I.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Garrity, H and I, seconded by Sokol. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
None? Motion carries.
Item I is request a resolution to amend the county budget.
We did that
Oh,
one.
we
did that one?
included that in there. Yep.
Topics for discussion, we currently have 2 vacancies for correction sergeant, and we hired 2 correction officers since November because we didn't have a meeting in December. The sheriff would like to bring one item from the floor.
I'll let Sean go over it, but one thing you should be aware of, we need a resolution to have a contract with Morpho Trust. Morpho, if any of you had your fingerprints taken for either a pistol permit or a job application, previously they were doing that at Comfort Inn. About a year and a half ago, they contacted me and wanted to know if I wanted to rent space. Wasn't sure I wanted to rent space, but I knew it would be helpful to the citizens of our county not to have to send their wife to a hotel to get a fingerprint. It's a little scary, so I figured we'll try it. We'll put them in our building. They would feel secure, use our lobby, go in and use the equipment. So I agreed to let Morpho Trust come in and do that. I didn't charge them anything. We wanted to see if it worked for the citizens, if it worked for our building. They've been here a year and a half. It's worked well for them. They've gone from 1 day a week to 2 days a week, so it does tie up the training center, and we have to move it back and forth. So I called them and said, hey, this is working well for the citizens. It's working well for you. It's time for you to start paying now. And I said, there's no negotiating. You're going to pay $1,000 a month. 2 days a week, that's 8 times a month. I figured that was very minimal, and they hedged a little bit, but then they agreed that they'd pay us $1,000 a month. So we need a resolution to collect $12,000 a year.
Okay. Resolution by Supervisor Sokol, seconded by Supervisor Wild. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Is there anything else we need to do, Mary Ellen?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that good negotiation as well. Supervisor Bramer.
Thanks. I just have one more thing I wanted to bring up while the sheriff was here during this committee, is that I have been working with a private it's like a nonprofit. It's a foundation on the Responsible Voting Initiative that was started last year. And I started working on probably, right before the voting season started, so it was really rushed. And I've been working on it probably since November of this year. And the plan is to continue an awareness, education, outreach effort using the taglines from last year, Remember Charlotte. And we're not looking at using any county dollars, but I did want the committee to be aware of it and just kind of make sure that I have the committee's consensus to keep moving forward, because we would like to say on some of the promotional materials that it's supported by Warren County, or it'll just say Warren County on that information. And if it looks nice, which I hope it will end up looking nice, we'll ask the tourism department to tweet it or put it on their social media pages. But right now I have involved Sheriff York, and we're also working with the Lake George Park Commission. Anybody, Chairman, have any concerns or questions? We do like a monthly telephone conference. They usually last only half an hour. They're very quick because we just want to keep things moving. And anyone is interested, I can send you the links and all that stuff.
Supervisor Bramer, you are asking for anything specific at this point?
No. I just want, if anyone has objections, I would like to hear it now so that I'm not blindsided later as we're rolling this out. Okay.
County Attorney? Okay.
Yeah, there's no money involved. If there is money, I'll come back and ask you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Very good. On to Office of Emergency Services. Yeah.
Ready?
Thank you, Director LaFleur, please.
Thank you, Chairman. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Brian LaFleur, the Director of Office of Emergency Services and the Fire Coordinator. Fortunately, today I'm not in Thurman. Supervisor Hyde, I'm not sure if she's still here. I've spent more time in Thurman in the last week and a half than I have my entire life. But it's a beautiful place to be. Going through our agenda here, item 1 is we have to approve extending our existing contract for the City of Glens Falls Fire Department. They do our...
I'll make that motion.
Fire cause and origin investigation services.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Garrity, second by Supervisor Simpson. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Request number 2 is we have to have approval for out-of-state travel. 3 of our EMS coordinators, Mickey, Travis, and Jack, will be attending the EMS Today Conference and Exposition. It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is a one-time per year event. We have it in our budget. We do this each year. And this is where our EMS coordinators get their training and learn about all the new things and what's going on.
Okay. Moved by Supervisor Garrity, second by Supervisor Bramer. Any discussion? I'd like to point out that we have 2 of those coordinators here, Mickey and Travis. So, okay, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries.
Number 3 is an amendment to the 2018 budget relative to our FY15 Homeland Security grant to bring that over into 2018.
Okay. Moved by
Second.
Supervisor.
6, please.
Oh.
They're all
Okay.
amendments to the budget, so...
Okay, all budget 1s, 3 through 6 by Supervisor Sokol and was seconded by Supervisor Bramer. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Number 7, we did have a large amount of trucking needed to be done to move the equipment that we had at the Sibagagi site over into our training center so that we can get that going. And Ellsworth and Son Excavating provided that for us, and they have deemed that they want to donate the dollar amount that we would just like a letter from the chairman to them recognizing that.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Garrity, second by Supervisor Driscoll. All those in, any discussion? Okay, call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under discussion items, you should have in your packet, and you would have received before today, a copy of legislation that Senator Little and several other legislators are presenting to the Senate and to the the other legislators to put together a, how do I want to describe this? Part of what we want to do, if we want to build EMS and we want to make EMS work in our county, and we want the county to be able to become part of that, or to create our own system to help out the squads that don't have the capabilities right now. One of the things, obviously, we've been fighting with is funding. How are we going to make this work? What's been brought by Senator Little is a legislation that would allow counties to create EMS funding districts. In other words, the county would actually do a taxing district for EMS. Now, you have a copy of the legislation. I would like this county to officially recognize that and support that resolution. I think it's very important. It does not mean we have to do it. This is just something that would allow counties that need to do it to have the ability legally to set up these districts.
Okay, that resolution is moved by Supervisor Simpson. Is there a second? By Supervisor McGowan. Any discussion on this? Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Director, I've spoken to you personally about this. Actually, last night, I had the misfortune, excuse me, or good fortune, of having someone in my family require EMS services. And it's an important service. A lot of people don't necessarily think about it, but it is a very important service, and I want to send my family's gratitude to you and your extended team for what you guys are able to do on a day-to-day basis. So I absolutely support where you're trying to go with this, and fortunately I'm on the task force to help figure this out, and I look forward to working hard to get this done quickly.
Thank you. Just an aside for this real quick, there are currently 4 pieces of legislation that are being brought forth relative to EMS. One is to allow fire departments, right now, any rescue squad that is part of a fire department, in other words, is not a separate entity, they are not allowed to bill. They're not allowed to get reimbursed from the Medicaid or whatever for what they do. They end up, it's a total cost to the town. I know of several in our county right now that are in that scenario. They cannot bill for the service. They can't get reimbursed. So there's a bill currently floating through that's going to allow that. Which other one, Mick?
To change the age from EMT, right now it's the age they're changing the age to 17, and Travis is working with a group to try to get an EMT program and both his programs involved in teaching EMT courses. And then there's a bill out there to make EMS an essential service.
Right now in state law, towns, any municipality, whatever, is required to provide fire protection. They are not required by law to provide EMS. And what this legislation will do will make EMS on par with fire and law enforcement, that it is something that we have to provide to our constituents. So, the next item, real quick, we are going to be doing. I'm sorry.
One moment. I think we have a motion on the floor, and we are in discussion. So Supervisor Loeb.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm amazed how quickly you went through the agenda. I just stepped out. And I wanted to address this particular item. Our predecessor, Supervisor Rock, very concerned about the fact that citizens of Glens Falls were paying extra, subsidizing at least a portion of the road patrol of the Sheriff Department. And I think this was a good example. With the Sheriff Department, that's something that's evolved over the past 100 years or more. But this is starting right now, and I would lobby, unless this has already been discussed, I would lobby the board to give credit to the city of Glens Falls. We already have our EMS that works very well, and we should not be involved in any costs, assuming any costs to support EMS development.
Thanks, Supervisor Loeb. To clarify, if this was a tax district, you draw boundaries around the district and you assess within that boundary. So throughout this task force, it will describe what those boundaries are and see who would want to be included and who not.
Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, again, if I could, thank you. Just make a statement in regards to what Supervisor Loeb said. I do agree that we need to be careful about how we spend money and how we tax our citizens, but we don't always reside and live and move within our own district. So I know myself, I spend a lot of time up north, my kids do, my kids' friends do, I'm sure our families do. So this is an important service, I think, for the whole county, and we need to really consider how we support ourselves as well as the tourism industry that's so big for our community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not...
I have a question.
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
I just want to be clear that this resolution is about Senator Little's proposal, not the other things that are included here.
That is my understanding.
What other things are you looking at, Claudia? I'm sorry.
There's some other documentation about other legislation, like you and Mickey just
Medicaid
discussed going through.
adjustment.
And I'm not
essential services.
prepared to vote on those.
That's not included. Those were things that we brought
Okay.
to you.
Just as a FYI.
Those were some resolutions that were presented to us from other counties so that we had something to work from in order to prepare our resolution. So that's just other documentation indicating what several other counties have done.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Okay. The last item...
No further discussion. I'll call the question. All those in favor and support of Senator Little's legislation?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? Motion carries.
Thank
Yes.
you. The last item is I do want to advise this group, and I will be sending a flyer out to the entire board and anyone else that's interested. The National Weather Service, in conjunction with our office, is going to do a quick presentation on the 5th in the boardroom on ice jams, how they work, what you need to know, what's dangerous, what things we should be aware of. Those of you that would like to attend that, it's certainly open to everybody. Highway superintendents, anybody that wants to come, we'll be putting that out to everybody. I apologize, we just don't have the flyer ready for today. I believe so. Let me get the flyer out. I don't want to say something incorrect. I don't have that in front of me. I'm pretty sure it's a bit. That's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you, Director LaFleur. Any other questions? Not? Okay. Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Simpson, by Supervisor Andrea Hogan. Okay.
See, that didn't take much.